Real reason for turning everybody in this direction is so I can be backlit by the sunshine. My name is Paul. I'm the chair of the operating committee here at Red Pine Camp. Welcome to the 2018 Junior Staff and Parent Information Night about Staff 2018. Who's excited? So it is a camp, right? So before we get started, I invite the senior staff who are here this evening to come up to the front. Come on up, senior staff. And, camps have a lot of funny traditions. They have a lot of songs that you learn when you're at camp. And a lot of, some of them are repeat after me songs. Some of them
are repeat after me songs.
There you go. But one of my favorites from Red Pine Camp has always been the Junior Birdsman song. Up in the air. Yeah. So the senior staff, unrehearsed, because they didn't know I was going to do this to them until just now, are going to lead us in a rousing rendition of the Junior Birdsman song. But first I got to get the camera going because this has to go to Toronto for all the kids who aren't here tonight, and it has to go to the Yukon. All right, senior staff, 2018, take it away.
Up in the air, the Junior Birdsman. Up in the air, upside down. Up in the air, the Junior Birdsman. With their noses to the ground. And when you hear the grand announcement that their wings are made of air, let you know the Junior Birdsmen have sent their box tops in. What does it take? It takes 5 box tops, 4 bottle bottoms, 3 something, 2 unusuals, and 1 thin dime.
And we heard some great fill-in from the back. Thank you very much, senior staff. Dismissed moment to start this all over again. So I said, my name is Paul. I'm the chair of the operating committee, and I have this on so I can take... Hey, now's the part when you have to be quiet until I tell you can make noise again. So now I have this in my ear because I am recording this so we can send this to the kids who aren't here this evening. So if you're asking questions, I will likely repeat things back at you. This is the serious part of the night. 32 years ago, I think it was. 32 years ago, I was sitting in a church hall very similar to this, going through sort of here's how Red Pine Camp junior staff works, and here's what you can expect. And as I look around the room, I'm going to ask anybody who was on junior staff at one point or senior staff at one point to put up your hand. Anybody, parents, ex-senior staff, committee? Yes, there's a lot of hands going up in this place. Junior staff at Red Pine Camp is a really interesting experience. It's a really interesting step on the rest of your life. And if you're lucky, you can continue to volunteer and help out at other camps or other programs. That's what Red Pine really taught me. Red Pine really taught me how to give back. And that's why I'm here today still doing this 32 years later. So tonight's meeting, what are we here for? We're here to talk and learn a little bit about staff and staff expectations. Getting ready for pre-camp. Pre-camp's a bit of a different animal. It can be very intense. Give you some tips on how to get through pre-camp. Questions and answers with the committee and also with Sandy over there, who's the assistant camp director this summer, so he's one of your bosses. We're going to have a little team building activity for the junior staff that will be led by the senior staff, so I hope you're all ready over there. And then we're going to just have some final questions and answers around how the summer works and things that your parents might have questions about or things you might have questions about. Introductions. I've already introduced myself. I'm Paul. I'm the chair of the operating committee. I'd like the rest of the operating committee to come up and we'll do introductions for all of them.
What song are they?
That's a good question. I know I left my badge in my car. I noticed nobody else here is wearing a badge, so we could probably do I'm a Little Teapot or something. Yeah, all right, that's fine. Right. We have to do.
Ready?
I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my hat. Oh. I think they want it a little bit louder. Okay. I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout. When I get all steamed up, hear me shout. Tip me over and pour me out. There you go. fun never stops at Red Pine Camp. Oh, don't go anywhere. You actually have names up here. And there. Bob Fitz, property. Yay! Patrick Hart, Donning Hall and Tuck. Rose McNiven, junior program. Tracy Tapper in crafts. Mike Sinclair, family program in LIT. Heather Earl on the waterfront. Hey! And the lady with all the paperwork, Christine Brown. So if you have paper copies, paper copies of things you need or questions particularly about how the business works and contracts works, Christine's the person to talk to about those. Okay, thank you very much, committee. Other introductions. So Lindsay Jackson is coming back as our camp director. Lindsay did 4 weeks, almost 5 weeks of camp director last year. She's another Red Pine Camp has-been, senior staff and junior staff. She was, as I said, the 2017 assistant camp director. She's currently doing a doctoral studies at Concordia University in Montreal, where she does religions and cultures. So a very interesting perspective when you consider I do software and she's doing religion and cultures. It's a very interesting mix. We have one of our other directors in the house, Sandy Gibson, assistant camp director. Give him a round of applause. I did. I could show them the other one. It was from 2013, and he doesn't look that old in there. And I don't know why that's so pinched, because it looks fine on my screen. So Sandy, another Red Pine Camp has-been senior, and he spent a long time in the family program role, basically keeping the entire camp moving. So we're really excited that Sandy gets to bring his energy and his enthusiasm to all of you and share that with all of you. And currently, he's still teaching OCDSB, secondary school, still going for you? Yeah. So, Mr. Cotter, is that you're going to grow the mustache for the summer? Mr. Cotter from... Wow, he's too young. Welcome back. Okay. I'm a little old. So, what is a camp director? Oh, I should ask Sandy, before I show the slide, what is it? What's the role of the camp director? We'll see how many of these things you actually get.
Supervise, empathize, synthesize, exercise.
Exercise. You did pretty good. So the directors are responsible for monitoring, mentoring, and evaluating junior staff. And did you know that your junior staff evaluations started when you walked in this building today? And did you know that nobody took the initiative to set out chairs? Yeah. That's just kidding. That's not going on your evaluation. But seriously, evaluations have started, so step up. They're responsible, unfortunately, for enforcing camp rules and guidelines. So the board of directors sets the guidelines for the camp, the operating committee helps develop the policies and implement them, and it's the director's job to make sure they enforce them all summer long. So they're your boss. Organizing, implementing, and the training of all the staff. So pre-camp is largely about these guys teaching you how to do your department work, most importantly teaching you how to live together and how to work together, because teamwork is probably the single biggest thing you need to have to be a successful member of Red Pine Camp junior staff. They also have another role, which is to represent Red Pine Camp to the campers. So they're the ones who every day are talking to the campers about how was that meal in the dining hall, how was your experience on waterfront, are your kids liking JP, how was that lineup in the tuck shop. All of that goes through the directors and comes back to us. And during the summer, they can make tweaks to how we do things to improve the experience for all of the campers, because that's the only reason why any of us are there. Right? So your summer job isn't, yay, I get to be on junior staff. Your summer job is, yay, I get to be on junior staff so I can help campers have the same experience as I had when I was younger. Right? That's the job of the junior staff. Senior staff, we have a whole bunch of them in the room tonight too, and I do have introductions. We'll do live introductions and picture introductions for them too. They report to the camp director, and they are responsible for the hands-on running of each of the departments. So we have a couple of them down on the waterfront. We have a few of them in the dining hall. We have a couple of them in JP. We have one in the tuck shop. We have property as well. And we have some in the back in the kitchen doing dishwashing and whatnot. So they are your day-to-day boss. They tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And they're there to help you if you're having issues with that, or they're there to help you if you're having issues with perhaps other people on your team or other people in your cabins. They're sort of your first good talking spot, because most of them, stand corrected, have either done this job at Red Pine Camp or have done this type of job at a different camp and are bringing some really cool ideas and some really good experiences from other spots. So they're a really good resource for you guys. They're going to make sure that you know how to do your job safely. They're going to make sure that you're staying healthy because they're going to watch you every day, make sure that you're eating, make sure you're exercising, make sure you don't have bags under your eyes all the time. And they're going to be doing your evaluations. So they're the ones who will be rating you on the skills that you perform every day. So listen when they ask you to do something, ask questions if you're not sure how they want you to do it or expect you to do it, and then go and ask them how well you did. That's a great way to self-evaluate yourself all summer and to give them the information they need to write a good evaluation for you at the end of the year. But they are your department bosses. And who are our senior staff? Let's bring up the ones that are here in Ottawa right now. Okay. I sent out an email saying, hey, please send me a headshot so we can put it on the deck. I got one from Katie Walsh and JP. I did not get one from Josh, so Josh gets to be the stick man. Yeah, exactly. Nathan Ellis, prop, who's not here today because he's in somewhere sunny and warm right now on some island. Natalie Colburn, dining hall and crafts. So that you'll note that's a bit of a different position. We used to have a craft senior, now we have a dining hall and craft senior. So they're helping to manage the dining hall activities in addition to working with crafts. Billy Raymond doing boats on the waterfront. If you're here, you can come up and wave at people. We can point you. Come on, there we go. You know, we already did your picture. So I need to draw a little, this is Josh in the blue shirt. I need to draw a little more hair on the stick man. Adrian's on the next page. Morgan's on this page. Morgan Sacred Waterfront Swim. Cam's on the next page. Paul's on the next page. And Grace is on the next page. So we'll just jump to the next page. But before I do that, I should mention Callum. We haven't talked about Callum. So Callum has been on FP, and we have Catherine Snelling coming back to run Waterfront yet again, which is awesome. So there's Cameron. Yay, Cameron. Do you recognize his face? Adrian Plett on Tuck Shop. Grace Hart, Dining Hall and Wait. And Paul Lamar is over there on Dining Hall and Slot. And Michelle Whittle, who is also, I think she's traveling right now, so she didn't get the email, and she gets to be a stick figure as well. So that's your senior staff. Get to know them and get to know them fast because they're really good people. Yay, no round of applause for the senior staff. That's sad. That's sad. All right. So you can go back now. We may have talked about this a little bit before about what are some of the staff, the staff expectations. And I think I've spoken about this before to some of you, maybe in an interview or at the session we did in February, that this is absolutely in no way LIT4. This is now you work for Red Pine, and now you get paid by Red Pine, and now we have expectations of how you will comport yourselves, how much time you will spend working, and how you will manage your off-hour activities. So you're going to work about 7 hours a day in your department, and your schedules will look, we follow a week. You notice that the 7 hours starts at 8 and ends at 10. It's more than 7 hours. But in that time break, you won't always be on duty. You won't always be on your shift, but that's roughly what a schedule could look like. This is our JPLIT calendar, and you'll go through getting used to all these things throughout the week. What's interesting about staff at Red Pine is you don't have the same day off every week. You're going to rotate through different positions throughout the summer in your department, so every department will have a different way of breaking that up, either by letter or by number, and depending on your letter or number, the shifts differ and the activities differ and whatnot. But overall, your schedule is around 7 hours a day in your department. There's also the volunteer aspect of Red Pine Camp, which is the bit that's over and above. And that's, oh my gosh, it's Penny Carnival time and I'm going to go help run a booth, or it's regatta and I'm off and I'm not working, but I really want to be on the team so that I can compete and so I can help somebody else have a really good summer at camp. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to get involved in things outside of just your department or things just outside of junior staff. And it's a really key expectation of our junior staff, because you probably remember when you were a kid coming to camp and finding those junior staff that you clung to. I know my kid did that, and the JP staff walking around. Where's Jamie? And he's hanging off of Shane. I think Shane Osterhoff was one of his faves. And on all that time, whether you're volunteering at an activity at camp or whether you're working your job, sitting in the chair on the waterfront or walking through camp with a broom because you got to go sweep a court, you are young and shining faces of Red Pine Camp. You represent what Red Pine is all about. You represent what Red Pine is all about to the kids who look up to you, to the parents and the grandparents who look back at what they see of themselves in you while you're at that job. Red Pine Camp's a very multi-generational spot. And it's really interesting to see the kids looking up to the staff and the older people looking back to how they were when they were on senior staff and reliving those moments. So you are the face of Red Pine Camp. That's why we've hired you. So there's a really strong expectation that everything you do, you're thinking about how people are perceiving you in that on a day-to-day basis. You're going to get one day off a week. It won't always be the same day, and usually it's starts the night before and ends the morning after, so you actually do get a chance to, if you really want to, go home. I think in the 5 years I worked on staff, I went home twice, but that's just me. And I mentioned the directors before. Your other job while you're there is to abide by all the decisions as articulated by the directors. So we set out a schedule. Here's your job schedule. We set out a set of performance expectations. Here's how well we expect you to work. We set out a culture of how to be on staff at Red Pine Camp. And if that's not going well, the directors can give you different instructions. They can say, guess what, guys? It's early curfew tonight. Or guess what, Department X? I need you to come back and clean the prop shop because it just isn't clean enough. And every time you get those directions, you have to listen to the camp directors because, as mentioned, they are the big boss. Any questions about sort of the schedule or the job or anything at this point? No? With that said, we'll move on. Communal living. 9 to 12 people in a box. One bed. Lower bunk or upper bunk. They have their merits. Lower bunk is nice because it's low to the ground. Lower bunk sucks because the guy on the top is always on the bottom person's bunk. Top bunks, nice and quiet. Sometimes lower bunks, lots of people passing through. Some shared storage. So it's really important that you learn to respect the privacy of the people in your cabin and respect the privacy of the people in the next door cabin. So you're not always barging in on them or visiting with them or getting things in the way. So yeah, cabins. They're busy because there's 9 to 12 people moving around, getting ready for work, changing between shifts, trying to nap, trying to clean their cabin. I'm sure many of them are trying to clean their cabin. No, none of them are trying to clean their cabin. They get messy. They get very, very messy. These are actual live pictures, not live right now, but pictures from previous years of staff at Red Pine Camps. The stuff gets everywhere. And the directors will be implementing cabin cleanup. What's cabin cleanup? It's the time when everybody has to go and get their cabins cleaned and inspected. And there are awards for the cleanest cabin, and there are penalties for the not so cleanest cabins, because learning to live with other people is a skill that you never get away from. Who has intentions of going away to go to school, getting away from mom and dad and going away to university? Yeah, residents. After residents, living in a house with 5 people that you may or may not know, and that may start out, yay, we're the best of friends, and by October, you may want to kill each other. But this is an opportunity for you to learn how to live with other people and develop some of that respect for their privacy and how to deal with some of this stuff. Clothing and personal belongings. So we'll be sending out a list of things that you should bring. It's not the be-all and the end-all list. You are allowed to bring other stuff, and you're even allowed to not bring some of the things we suggest that you bring. My general rule of thumb is if you want it, write your name on it in Sharpie or get labels or do something, mark it as your own. If you really want it, don't bring it to camp because from those messy bunks, things will go walkabout or someone will borrow something in week 2 and then it'll be week 8 and you're going home and you don't know who's got it, and then a hat shows up in the mail in October and you're like, how did my hat get somewhere? So think very carefully about what it is you want to bring in terms of your clothes and things, and make sure that you label everything, because there's no way anybody can keep track of everything that you do bring to camp. This is Labor Day a couple of years ago, where these people should know whose stuff all this is, and this whole pile right here was things that nobody could claim. I don't know how that happens. How can that be those stuff and nobody? Anyway, so that's some tips on how to bring and what to bring. Staff are responsible for their own laundry. Who does laundry at home already? Parents, who of these kids really does laundry at home already? Yeah, very few. Okay, that's good that you know how to do laundry. We provide laundry machines for you. They're free, but bring your own detergent. Then bring high efficiency pods and whatnot, because that's the machines that we have. Bring them in a watertight container, because that seals really well, because if you saw that messy cabin, the last thing you want is to step on a Tide Pod on the floor. Bring a laundry bag. If you're boys in particular, bring a laundry bag. It's really easy to put laundry in a bag and then just wash it once a week. Just throw the whole bag in the machine, I don't care. Just don't leave it all over the floor. Sloppers, did you guys do this last year, Paul, using the kitchen machines? Okay, so sloppers, you get a fair few set of t-shirts for your whites. The kitchen staff have their own machines, and they will let you guys run them through as a department or whatnot, so you get to use the kitchen machines to do your whites, get in a big load. That's handy, but you still have to do your own personal laundry out at the laundry facilities next to the JP Hut. So we talked about shared space and privacy and how those cabins aren't very big and you don't have lots and lots of storage. If there's going to be 9 girls in a cabin, you don't need 9 hair straighteners. You don't need 9 hair dryers. You don't need 9 hammocks. You don't need any of that. So think about what you want to bring. When you bring it on the day, maybe when you see other people coming in, start to talk to other people about, hey, why don't I send my X, Y, and Z home with mom and dad and we can use yours, that type of thing. Because we just can't have everything in the cabins. We also don't have enough hydro to run it all. So yeah, if it's an electrical thing like a hairdryer or whatnot, be really careful what you bring. Do, though, bring fans. Can tell you those junior staff cabins and the senior staff cabins too, they get very hot because they're out in the middle of the field, not a lot of wind, a lot of sunshine. So do bring fans, like the small ones for your bunk, or if you have a larger one for bigger air. And a light, like a little reading type light, is often a good thing to have to give yourself some private light in your room. Clothespins. I mentioned it's warm and it's dry outside. Hanging up your clothes is a great way to get rid of the stains, hang them up in the sunshine. So bring lots of clothespins to hang those. You're responsible for your own medications, things like Tylenol or cold medicine, stuff for allergies, your own Band-Aids if you're prone to blisters and whatnot. Those are types of things that you should probably be bringing and keeping with you. Any questions about cabin life? No questions about cabin life. Wow, you guys are smart. Food. Who likes food? Not very many people like food. Okay. Who likes camp food? Who likes food you don't have to cook? Yeah, there we go. That's the question that everybody wants to have asked. We feed the staff. We feed the staff 3 meals a day, and plus there's usually an evening stack. Slop and wait staff, if you're on duty, you're eating before everybody else in the pig pen. Everybody else eats in the dining hall in full view of the campers. And I know this because I sit at table 17, which is right beside where the rest of you eat. And so I get to hear everything that happens, and I get to watch everything that happens. And yeah, the entire dining hall can see you. So I go back to that, you're always the face of Red Pine, right? With, mowing down on huge platters of macaroni. You're seeing how many eclairs you can fit in your mouth. Might not be the best thing to do on junior staff, although I usually, anyway, never mind. You are required at all meals. So if you're working, you need to be in the dining hall eating your meals, and that's something that the directors and the seniors will be following up on to make sure that their teams are there eating. Why do we need to eat? We need to have the energy to be able to do our jobs, and we need to stay healthy. So we monitor the fact that you're there and that you're eating. If you're on a day off, you don't have to come to breakfast or lunch or whatever else, but we do feed you. We're continuing with GB Catering as our catering firm. Last year, we started with more than 2 weekly menus. So you won't always be eating the same things every week or every other week. But of course, we do have 9 banquets to go through and 9 barbecues and 9 buffets. And if you've been around for a few years, the numbers of turkeys that you've eaten at Red Pine Camp starts to climb, and peanut butter begins to look really good. But every meal, you also have access to salad bar, right? So you guys can go and get some of the more interesting things off the salad bar. Feed yourselves really, really well, please. So, snacks. So we feed you 3 meals a day. We give you a snack in the evening. We know you love your snacks, but really there's a limit. This too is a picture from, I think this was 2016. So granola bars and Pringles, chips, a whole box of Lucky Charms. That's the food bunk. So it actually had a little plaque. It was the food bunk. And, to go along with that, right? So we got to be careful about the food in the cabins because we end up with mice. And if you're on a lower bunk, you'll be the first ones to find out that there are mice. And if you're on an upper bunk, you'll eventually find out. So Be thoughtful about what you bring up for snacks, and parents be thoughtful about what you send up for snacks. When my daughter was on junior staff, I would show up with a thing of fresh strawberries, and I wouldn't get anywhere near her before everybody in her cabin or on the waterfront staff had their hand in there and was eating the fresh strawberries. So they want to eat lots of food, but they don't always have to eat junk food. So be thoughtful about what you send up for your kids. Fridges, don't bring one. No power to run a fridge, no place to put a fridge. If you have things like medications that need to be refrigerated, we usually lock those up in the first aid post. So no fridges in the cabin, no toasters, no grill pans, no making midnight s'mores or anything else in your cabin, okay? That's not what the cabin's for. Other things we don't want to see at our PC. We used to have a list of the 7 things or whatnot that would get you fired, and many of the things that are on this list still will. But Red Pine Camp is also trying to evolve its thinking around how do you handle complex situations in the workplace or in the living place. And we are beginning to learn and to understand that things aren't always as black and white as you would like to think. When you write a rule on paper, it's really easy to write the rule on paper. When the rule has to be put into place, sometimes you have to have conversations and discussions and find a new way of figuring out how to implement a rule. So we're currently working with the board and working with some outside advisors on how do we handle things like a harassment policy and how do we handle some of those complicated issues. But those are still things that we don't want to see at Red Pine Camp. You don't need to bring aggressive or violent behavior towards your cabin mates, towards your staff mates, towards campers, towards anybody to Red Pine Camp. There will be consequences. There will be a protocol we go through with the directors. It could lead to your dismissal from camp. So it's not a behavior we want to see at Red Pine Camp. Hand in hand with aggressive behavior is harassment. So you can be aggressive without being violent. You can be aggressive with your words. You can be aggressive with your attitude. You can be aggressive with a look. You can be aggressive in the way you behave with other people about other people. We don't want to see that really either. We want to see you guys working as a team. As I said, teamwork is the key to a successful year on junior staff. And we'll be working with the directors to make sure that you're all following that. And if we have issues of harassment, we will be working through a protocol, and again, it could lead to your dismissal. So let's be careful about that. And if you're not, if you're witnessing that behavior, that's the bystander rule, right? We ask that you escalate that to your seniors and to the directors to make sure that we can address it on behalf of anybody else who may be impacted by that behavior. Theft and vandalism of staff property, camper property, community property. We have had incidents of all of these things over the years. We don't want to have those incidents. There's no need to take something that belongs to somebody else. There's no need to damage something that belongs to somebody else. So again, that's something that there are protocols. We'll go through them and likely could lead to dismissal. Possession or abuse of alcohol. There is no protocol. If we find booze in your bunk, we're putting you in the office and we're phoning your mom and dad. Same thing with drugs. If we find drugs in your bunk or anywhere around, or there's someone saying Joe blows out in the back 40 with weed or whatever it is, there's no real protocol there. It's we put you in the office, we call your mom and dad, and you're gone. That's one of those ones that's still pretty easy to have as a binary switch. Smoking, tobacco, vaping. We are a non-smoking staff for everybody. The directors can't smoke, the business manager can't smoke, Rick and Tom can't smoke, campers can't even really smoke unless they're out in the parking lot. But for junior staff, there's no smoking, there's no tobacco use, there's no vaping. Anybody have any issues with any of those policies? Think that they're hard to... Yes, question. The question was, if we're seeing these behaviors, do we have a duty to report it, and will there be like a whistleblower legislation where we're not going to be subjected to repercussions from potentially other staffers? So I'll start with the first one. Duty, it's an expectation. We have the expectation that you would report it, partly because one of the things you're looking out for on staff is the well-being of every other staff member. So if you're seeing somebody do something that could get them fired, you probably don't want that to happen for that person. First things first, talk to them about it. Hey, get rid of that, don't do that, not good here. We will have to go to the directors if we see it again, whatnot, that type of thing. Will you be protected as best as possible, where we won't go to them back to the person. If there is a protocol and an investigation, we won't go back and say, Tim told us you were doing X, Y, and Z. We will say we have heard or there's been evidence. So yeah, we definitely work to keep people's privacy. The thing is, if the person's doing something wrong, they probably already know it. But it is a good idea to just give them the reminder of these rules. And yeah, please do follow through with the process. And we will protect our staff as best as possible. That's what we're there for sure. Any other questions about those rules? No? Okay. Junior staff conduct. Well, there could be 9 slides on this, but hopefully we'll keep it easy. There shouldn't be. Curfew. We have a curfew. It is a set curfew, but it can be set earlier by the directors at any point in time during the summer because they think that one person is tired, they think a whole cabin needs to sleep more, or they think that everybody needs to go to bed early. It's the discretion of the directors to set and enforce curfew. Okay. Curfew violation. So if you're out after hours, which we don't want you to be, because what would you be doing out after hours? Curfew violations are another thing that can get you sent home. So violating curfew is another key. Yes. Question was about curfew. If you're leaving camp. And you're leaving camp late at night because it's a long drive for your parents or whomever to come pick you up, can you stay up past curfew? Yeah, we would make arrangements for those types of things. Yeah, absolutely, we'd make arrangements for those types of things. But in general, if you're at camp and you're sleeping in your cabin, we want you to be in your cabin at night. And the senior staff do lockup after curfew, and they're wandering around camp after curfew, and there are campers wandering around camp after curfew who, believe me, have no problem telling either the committee or other members of senior staff or the directors that I saw so-and-so outside the cabin last night. So there's lots of people watching. Really, just don't do it. So other rules about junior staff conduct, no roosters in the hen house, no hens in the rooster house. That was something that Doug Murray told us 32 years ago, and I've always used the same terms. Boys don't go in girls' cabins, girls don't go in boys' cabins. And even if you are going into if you're in B1, you're going into B2, you'd be respectful about B2 and the people who live there and what they might be doing in it, right? Always treat those people with respect. Juniors don't go into senior staff cabins. If you have to have a conversation with a senior staff about something that's concerning you about your department or concerning you about other people in camp or just concerning you about how you feel, and there are plenty of places to do that in public, but also in private. I say so outdoors, but in private. In public and private doesn't make sense. No juniors in camper cabins. Obviously, if mom and dad are there, you can go and visit with mom and dad. Obviously, if mom and dad are there and you're really tired, you want to have a night away from everybody in the cabin and go and catch up on a night's sleep with your parents, you can do that. Don't recommend you spend the whole week there because you're going to miss out on a whole lot of stuff that happens in the cabins in before curfew type things. But yeah, you can go to your parents' cabins if you're looking to get a little bit extra sleep. The kitchen is closed when it's not in operations for meals. So don't be breaking the violation of the curfew by going to the kitchen late at night because A, you're breaking curfew, and B, the kitchen's closed, locked, and you're not supposed to be there. The workshop is also closed unless it's for camp business. Once we close the door at the end of the night, we don't want people going in there and getting paintbrushes, markers, or anything else. Waterfront is also closed to everyone when it's not waterfront hours. The waterfront hours are clearly posted on the board at the top of the gate, so you won't ever miss the fact that it's 10 o'clock at night. I didn't know the waterfront was closed because you had to walk by the sign that said closed at dusk. So don't be down there. Cell phones and internet access. So no cell phones at camp. So nothing that can connect to an LTE network or a 4G network or a 3G network or a G network. No internet access from camp. Wi-Fi capable devices like an iPod, you can bring that because we don't have Wi-Fi, so that's fine. But no cell phones. No cell phones with SIM cards removed because SIM cards are easy to just get another one and put it in your phone. No keeping cell phones or SIM cards in the office because we can't look after $700 times 55, that's a lot of money on cell phones, and then trying to have somebody there to give it to you back and forth. No texting home, no texts from home because you don't have a cell phone. So parents, how do I reach my kid? Or kids, how do I reach my parents? Parents, call the office. And Josh and Christine will make sure the messages get relayed, usually at meal times at a minimum. But obviously we have a relay of walkie-talkies if it's an emergency situation, and we can always find your junior staff if they've been following the rule about signing in and out of camp and checking with the directors before they leave. Other avenues, email the office. Emails are great. We print them, we fold them, we deliver them at meals, or if we have to run it through camp, if it's an emergency, we can do that too. Kids, how do you call home? Because you want to call home, right? And tell mom and dad all the fun things you're doing at camp. For those of you who aren't in the room, nobody is indicating they want to call home. We have payphones, and you're going to learn how to use a calling card and punch in a really long number at the payphone and get in line and not listen to what the person ahead of you is telling their parents, and it'll be fun. Payphones, they're fun. And it's not because we want to hide you from the outside world and you can't tell anybody about what life is like at Red Pine or anything like that. We want to keep our staff focused on where they are and what they're doing. And the easiest way of doing that is taking away the Facebook, the Instagram, the texts, and all that other stuff. It's worked in the past. Have people violated this? Yes. Have there been consequences? Yes. Have people been sent home? Yes. Have we taken phones from people because we found them partway through the summer? Yes. Do we like doing that? No. Is it easier for you to just leave it at home? Yes. Okay? You sign a policy, one of the policy documents, when you come into camp saying, I am not in violation of the technology policy and I don't have a cell phone. And your parents sign that too. So when we find that cell phone, it's not just you're making look bad, it's your parents who also signed that technology policy, right? So just don't do it. Seniors, can it be done? Can you live at camp without a cell phone? Absolutely. That wasn't very enthusiastic, was it? Okay. Really, you can do it though. So, sorry, any questions about that policy? Because usually we have questions about that one. No? Cool. So, who wants to come to camp? Once again, it's almost over, I promise. So, people want to come to camp. Pre-camp, which is mandatory for all staff, starts on January 23rd, Saturday, and we'd like you at camp before lunch. June? I said June. Sorry, I said July. I said July, but I wrote down June. June 23rd. Yeah, don't come July. And we'd like you there by lunchtime. So, the reason we want to do that is because we will have a lunch with your parents at camp. First meal, the parents will be there after they drop the kids off. And we want to make sure we go over all of your paperwork, make sure we have any medical forms that we need to have ticked off, and review any outstanding documentation and whatnot. During that lunch session, we'll be going over some other rules and some other formalities, and you'll be meeting Lindsay as well. I think Sandy won't be there that day, but we'll have a few. You'll be there in the morning, okay. But we'll have a few other committee members there on that day as well. After lunch, you'll finish moving in, and bam, pre-camp starts. It's training, it's having fun, it's getting ready for camp. That opens like 6 days after pre-camp starts. We will have a camp nurse. Hopefully we will have a camp nurse. If anybody here is a practicing RN or medical practitioner would like to volunteer some time for pre-camp, we'd love to have you because it would be always nice to have a camp nurse in camp. Exams. So we understand and we know that exams are not finished on the Friday, that some of you may have an exam on the Monday, potentially even the Tuesday if they have to use the extended day. Let us know as soon as you get your exam schedule if you're going to have an exam in the following weeks, because we'll have to let you know that you're going to fail that class. No, we're not going to do that. We will make accommodations. If you have to go back for an exam, obviously you can go back for an exam. We've done that in the past where we've organized carpools with the kids. So one parent drives up to take the kids back for the Monday morning exam, and the other one drives them back in the afternoon. What we're really keen on doing is minimizing your time away, because as I said, pre-camp is very short and very full. And while we want you to excel at your exams, we want to make sure you get off to a good footing for your junior staff summers. We want to make sure you're there for as much of pre-camp as possible. Graduations and proms, because many of you, question from the back. When I'm saying us or we in any of these slides, generally, if it's about documentation or contracts, anything related to schedule and pre-camp intake goes to the business manager, Christine. You've all got her email because she's been emailing you and sending you things for the past couple of weeks, I hope. So we're good. Yeah, let Christine know, and she will route it to directors and whoever else needs to be involved. Okay, graduation and prom. So many of you are in grade 12 and looking to graduate or go to prom and have fun at that. If it's your grad or your prom, then yeah, see the exam rules. Let us know as soon as you know what that date is, and we will try and figure out what we can do to get you back and forth in as little time as possible. If it's not your grad or your prom, it's usually a separate discussion about whether you can go back for that or whatnot. But we try and encourage only the people who are doing the graduating to go to those activities and really not to have, I'm going to my friend's grad or my friend's prom type things. Again, pre-camp is extremely short and extremely intense, and we're trying to keep as many people in camp as possible. It's not that we don't want you to have fun or experience those things, but there's always grade 12. Summer leave, as mentioned, all juniors get 1 day off a week. It'll be a different day each week. It'll be a different departure time based on your department and on what shifts you work. If you have a special request for a family activity or whatnot that you know about, again, let the camp know as soon as possible. We can talk to your seniors about how to move people around or share shifts or whatnot to accommodate, but we may or may not be able to handle all of the special requests. As you can imagine, scheduling 55 junior staff is no small feat, but Sandy's up to the task. So there is a sign-in, sign-out sheet if you're going to be leaving camp with a parent or guardian, and there's also, I think, there's a sign-in, sign-out sheet if you're leaving camp with other kids just to be off the property. We need to know where you are at all times in order to make sure that you're safe. And so there may be situations, thank you. They're on a dimmer, and welcome to I think they're. It's all right, we're almost at the end of the slides anyways. Yeah, so sign out, sign in, because that's good. Yeah, because we need to know where you are at all times. We are responsible for your safety. Question. So the question was, can we accumulate days off so that we can go away for a whole weekend? So your days off are impacted by how many people are in your department and when the busy times are for that department. Is it impossible? No. Is it likely? Also, probably no. Just because, again, it's very hard to get everybody that same capability throughout the summer. But if it's to get a weekend off to go and attend a family function or whatnot, like I said, let us know as soon as possible what that is, and we'll work to see if we can make that happen. But unfortunately, it's not like a job in the city where there's probably lots of people working through shifts and you're just missing one shift here or there. It's a whole day, and it's 55 people over 7 days of the week, and each department has different peak periods throughout the week, so it's very difficult to sort of meet everybody's needs, but we will try our best to see what we can do. Any other questions about time off? No? Okay. Moving on. Summer ends. Summer ends way sooner than you think. It's kind of like, pre-camp, this big spike, and then you got week 1, week 2, week 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It sort of just falls off a cliff. Before you know it, it's the end of the summer. So camp ends officially on Saturday, August 25th, 2018. The kids are booted out of camp at around 5 p.m. Takes us a while to sort of make sure everything's clean and ready to go for RPLC. And it starts again Friday, August 31st at around 4. So we need you to come back up Friday, August 31st for around 4. Again, a lot of you are in grade 12 and potentially heading off to university or other school early in September, and some of you may not be able to make it to Labor Day or to all of Labor Day. Again, if you have those constraints, please communicate those constraints to the office as soon as you know about them so we can make sure that we're covered for our staff for the Labor Day period. It ends again after Labor Day. It ends on Monday, September 4th, 2017. Question, yeah. So the question was from a Week 8 camper who gets booted out of their cabin earlier than 5, and they were asked if they are allowed to stay around until 5 to pick them up. Absolutely, and we may or may not give you a broom. We're happy to have people help get the camp ready for RPLC. No, of course you're welcome to hang out for that time. We're not going to make you leave by any stretch. So it ends again on Monday, September 4th. That's the end of the Labor Day. I didn't put a time here because while we kick campers out after lunch, Labor Day often takes a long time to close. And it's not because there's a lot of work. it's because there's a lot of work and a lot of tears, and it's hard to work when you're crying. And then remember that picture of all the clothes? There's all of those things that have to happen. So Labor Day is usually a late departure. The good news about that is you don't have to deal with all the traffic because the traffic left ahead of you, and you're leaving late. Yeah. I think, is there still any availability on Labor Day for parents of juniors? Or are we? There's a couple. So if you are a parent of a junior staff and you want to pick them up on Labor Day and you have not booked to come and visit the camp on Labor Day weekend, it's a fun weekend. There's still a few cabins available, and then you're not driving up Friday and then driving back up to pick them up on Monday. You're just going to stay there the weekend and cramp your kid's style. I highly recommend it. So that leaves a gap between the 25th and the 31st, and that's not called week 9. That's called You Don't Work at Red Pine for that week. So we are not responsible for staff between the 25th and the 31st. In other words, between week 8 and Labor Day. What are your options what are some of the options? What do some people do between week 8 and Labor Day? Many, if they're in Toronto, go to Ottawa and hang out with their staff friends. You have other options. You could apply to work RPLC. Why go home at all? You could work all the way through until Labor Day, which would be awesome. Either way, Red Pine Camp is not looking after your son or daughter for that week. Okay? Any questions about the in-between period? Yes?
If you're working at RPLC, would you leave your stuff in the cabin or do you have to?
Oh, well, you'd probably take what you need and go and work RPLC and leave the rest of it in the cabin. Camp is running that week in between week 8 and Labor Day. It is RPLC, and I don't think they use the staff cabins. They tend to just get locked up and left until Labor Day. They stay. Sandy?
I might be wrong, but I think RPLC is for those 17 and older, unless you're a lifeguard.
Unless you're a lifeguard, yeah. So there are options available to look. You can look at the RPLC hiring on the website. So if you think it's something that interests you, hey, give it a shot. It's a very different camp. It's a kids camp. It's an overnight camp. I know lifeguards are one thing that they are definitely looking for, but they also, for 17-year-olds, are looking for counselor type age kids too. Great experience. We actually that's where we got Cameron from. Cameron used to work for RPLC, and Sandy in his interim years went to work for RPLC as well. So quite good there. Wow, the last slide. Overall questions or comments? Anybody have anything that we didn't cover that they have a question about? We can get through that quickly, and then from here we're going to break into departments with the seniors. We have another question in the front row, and then a question in the back.
What do you do about diet restrictions such as vegan?
Diet restrictions. What do you do about diet restrictions such as vegan or vegetarian? And Grace is going to come up to the front to answer that question.
I'm Grace. So I'm Madam Pharmacist. So if you have any dietary restrictions or special dietary needs, very exciting.
No, Toronto can hear you.
Okay, so if you have any dietary restrictions or dietary needs, you guys can come talk to me at the beginning of camp, during the beginning of pre-camp, and we can set that up for you. I know that some people have a lot of dietary restrictions, so feel free to come talk to me afterwards if it's a little bit more complicated than just gluten-free or lactose intolerant, and I can kind of try to get that set up earlier so when we come you have some options, but otherwise, yeah, it's pretty easy. The kitchen's really accommodating, so yeah, just come talk to me afterwards or at the beginning of camp.
Perfect.
Oh, I actually did. Okay, so myself and Kat Snelling, who is the waterfront director, for the past 3 years, we have been organizing buying bathing suits for waterfront and wait staff. So this is something that we've been doing on our own for those who are interested. I know wait staff, I sent you guys an email, but I also know that there's been some switches in staffing. But we've also posted in the Facebook groups, but I know not everyone has Facebook. I know I'm a little old. You guys don't all have Facebook. So come talk to me afterwards if you didn't get the information. But yeah, so we're ordering those. Those are, you guys need to pay out for this on top of it from your own pocket. It doesn't come from your Red Pine paycheck like your other clothing. So yeah, it's $30 a bathing suit. Waterfront, you'll definitely need them a lot. Wait staff, you'll need them a lot. You're allowed to wear your own bathing suits, but these ones will be special in your colors of wait staff or waterfront colors and have the little Red Pine logo. So yeah, if you didn't get the email or Facebook message, just come talk to me.
Great, thank you. But actually, I will follow on just before I go to Patrick about that uniforms. So you will all be getting your staff T-shirts. That's something that you get. You will all be having the opportunity to order your staff sweats and whatnot through Christine. And for some of the departments, you get sort of different things. Waterfront, because you're outside, you get the waterproof pinnies to wear during the day and whatnot. While we like what's going on with the kids buying the bathing suits and having coordinated stuff, you are given a uniform by Red Pine Camp, and you are expected to wear your uniform, okay? Because, as I said earlier, you're representing Red Pine Camp, so we give you the branded lifeguard shirt, or we give you your swim tank top and all that other stuff. That's your uniform. That's what we expect you to be wearing. It's also awesome to have a Red Pine bathing suit, and we applaud the effort that Grace and Kat and Patrick and Christine, who are helping them get that stuff organized, go through for that. Are there any other questions about uniforms at all? Because wasn't something I talked about, and I probably should. No? Okay, Patrick.
Just a point, mostly for the parents, I mean, the parents of junior staffers. At the end of the weekend, for Ottawa staffers, the expectation is that everything goes home.
Yes.
Nothing stays behind. It all comes out at the end of the weekend, not on the Labor Day weekend. And the reason why is there is no time on the Labor Day weekend for that cleaning and packing and the crying and all the rest of it. So, different rules or different opportunity for Toronto kids, different opportunity for kids who might be looking at LPSC. But coming up at the end of the weekend, come up with a big car.
Yes.
Bring it all back.
We have a question from Jacob. Absolutely. The question was, can you bring an MP3 player? Yeah, you really, really should. Unfortunately, we're sort of in the collision of technology where 12-year-old kids have cell phones nowadays instead of MP3 players, and sometimes they're hard to come by. I know because I had a kid on junior staff that we had to go and try and source one from 2 years in a row because she broke it, lost it. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, MP3 players are awesome, especially if you're working in the slop room, because it's plug it in and let's have a playlist. So music is very, very welcome. Okay. We'll be floating around if parents have any other questions to deal with. And for that, then we're going to move into sort of the activities. So at this point, I have no idea what the seniors have planned, so we're just going to have them come up here and tell you what they want you to do.
Hey, Maddie and Kira. Hey, what? Show me how to get down. No way. Show me how to get down. Okay. You've got to kick your feet and swim into the beat. You've got to turn around and dive down to the ground. Say what? Dive down to the ground. Hey, James and Alex.
Hey, what?
Show us how to get down.
No way.
Show us how to get down.
Okay.
You've got to kick your feet and swim into the beat. You've got to turn around and dive down to the ground. Say what? Dive down to the ground. Hey, Robert and Sandra.
Hey, what?
Show us how to get down.
No way.
Show us how to get down.
Okay.
You got to kick your feet and swim into the beat. You got to turn around and dive down to the ground. Say what? Dive down to the ground. H2O, 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 H2O.
Apparently, waitstaff wants to go next. This is a repeat after me song.
Hey, what? I like waitstaff. Yeah, waitstaff. Yeah, waitstaff. Early in the morning, 7:20 a.m. Grab your tray and your apron. Yeah,
Spectacular. So no one else is volunteering as fast as waitstaff? Oh, okay, we're in.
Hey, juniors. Are you ready, juniors? Aye, aye, seniors. We can hear you. Aye, aye, seniors. Oh, who lives in Jimmy Hut and Tuck Shop? Tuck and JP. Who's friendly? Who's super friendly with the bees? Tuck and JP. Who sweeps the deck and closes up shop? Tuck and JP. 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 Tuck, Jiffy, tuck, Jiffy, tuck, Jiffy, tuck, Jiffy, tuck.
I think finishing strong was the right move.
This is the club song. We wrote it just recently. It's very meaningful to us. P is for prom that we're shot together. I is for lots of fun. O is for obviously the best apartments here at RPC. Plug, plug.